Hey guys, happy Wednesday. It's Pixelade here and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new. So there's actually quite a lot of Sims news that came out yesterday, way more than I could fit into that last video. And I did want to mainly focus on the laundry list, but today I want to cover 4 things in particular. We have a follow-up from the Sims Direct Communications about yesterday's laundry list that came out last night, a brand new tip from Inadius about the internal DLC release order, so some things have shifted behind the scenes it seems. We have details on the limited time Forever Friends event that is starting this coming Tuesday when the patch drops, and a brand new update about the Sims movie. So first, let's start with the Sims Direct Communications. Now, after the laundry list went out yesterday, many players immediately noticed it was mostly focused on smaller bugs and smaller issues, minor gameplay problems, menu issues, and it really didn't touch on the bigger, more game-breaking ones like save corruption, for example. And that understandably left many folks worried, and I really do feel the same way. But thankfully, later last night, the Sims Direct actually posted a follow-up to clarify the situation, and they said that the fixes listed in the laundry list are completely separate from the quality of life improvements that were announced earlier this week. So the roadmap for quality of life fixes is still happening, and those larger investigations are ongoing, and they'll be giving us updates on those closer to the base game update in November. Now, on one hand, that makes me very happy. You know, at least we know that yesterday's list wasn't all that we're going to get. It is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. But on the other hand, I still can't say that I'm fully reassured. We have been in this cycle so many times where they fix a handful of things, something else breaks, and then we're back to where we started. Now, until those fixes are in the game, working properly, and of course, staying that way, it is just still hard to trust. I think it at least does suggest that the team is at least trying to respond to the biggest concerns, and I will give them that. But until we see these things and the game is fixed and it stays that way, I'm not believing it until I see it personally. Now, for our second big piece of news, which actually comes from the one and only Inadius. Now, if you've followed leaks before, you should know that they have been extremely accurate in the past, predicting pack names, release dates, and also even artwork through data mining. So I feel extremely confident about this one. Now, originally, expansion pack 21 was thought to be arriving under version 1.108. That would have meant that about 5 DLCs would release between Adventure Awaits and the next expansion, and I feel like most of those are probably kits, since that's what we usually get now, are just expansion packs and kits. But according to Inadius's latest info, the internal version number has shifted to 1.110, so that pushes EP21 back by 2 more slots, meaning 7 DLCs now come between Adventure Awaits and our next expansion pack. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that it's 7 kits. We don't know that for sure, but I mean, it's really all we get nowadays. My first question is, why? What are these packs, and what was the reasoning for this? Well, a few months ago, an anonymous source posted a leak that claimed to have insider information about how EA manages Sims content. Now, according to that post, most of the profit from expansions doesn't actually go right back into the Sims. It is allegedly invested into other EA projects. Now, if that is true, I think that could explain why expansions don't follow a yearly schedule and instead seem to drop whenever EA really needs them most. Have you noticed how sometimes we get an expansion pack at the very beginning of the year and then one in the middle of the year, and sometimes we get one in the middle of the year or the end of the year? And there have been some years where we get 3, one at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. So in that same leak, they also talked about kits. Even though they are smaller, the profits from kits reportedly funds free base game updates, especially now that the base game is free to play and doesn't get the same direct budget from EA. I think that would also also explain maybe why kits keep releasing regardless of a community reception. They play a role in keeping the base game updates moving, and what are we going to be getting a lot of this quarter for? Free base game updates. We're getting free stuff, and I have a feeling that maybe they're doing this because of that. There was even a part in this leak that mentioned Maxis briefly putting some kits on hold earlier this year to test how players would respond to more functional ones, like the Restoration Workshop kit and the Kitchen Clutter kit. Those were experiments to see if players wanted more depth packed into kits, and I think judging by the current roadmap where we now see kits lined up for October, November, and December, I think that they're just pushing whatever they pushed back in terms of kits forward and maybe not really pushing the next expansion after Adventure Awaits back, if that makes sense. So maybe they finally have all of the data that they need because they've already put out a survey for this. So now I want to talk about the third update, and that's the brand new Forever Friends event. So this one ties in with Adventure Awaits and kicks off September 23rd, running until November 4th. That timeline is about what we've seen with past events, so it's likely the next patch will drop the same day the event begins. It also makes sense since we received a laundry list that our patch is coming this Tuesday. So we don't have an official blog post or detailed descriptions yet, but between the teaser trailer and the preview graphics, we know what is coming. The login reward is an oversized plushie for kids to play with. Week 1 includes what looks to be a magnet board, a set of bracelets, and a brand new recipe. Week 2 adds a picture frame, a new feminine top, and pillow. Week 3 brings a bunny decor item, I think, a new pair of shoes, and new bottoms. A lot of this stuff looks kind of recycled, I'm not gonna lie. I wonder if you guys agree with me there. These items are definitely nowhere near as good as the last event, and I thought the last event was meh in my opinion, so I think this one's gonna be a little more meh. And then finally, week 4 is the most mysterious. It looks like we're getting a brand new trait, though nothing official has been shared about it yet. So on top of that, we have the collectibles this time again as well. They are magnets. If you remember, the last event featured a magazine, so this continues that theme. Like I mentioned, it's just kind of meh to me. Like, it's cute and it's free. I will never say no to that. Send me the free stuff, but it doesn't feel like something to get overly excited about. I felt the same way about Enchanted by Nature. You know, it is nice filler content, but at the end of the day, it's not what's going to keep players engaged long term, at least in my own personal opinion. I would much rather see more energy go towards fixing the game itself, especially the major issues like save corruption. But every time there's an expansion, there's an event alongside it, so this isn't really surprising to me. It was probably planned months ago. Now I want to talk about the Sims movie. So after months of silence, producer Roy Lee gave a very rare update. The film is being developed by Amazon MGM Studios, EA, Vertigo Entertainment, and Margot Robbie's Lucky Chap Entertainment, like we previously knew. Kate Herron, who directed Loki Season 1, is attached as director alongside co-writer Brianni Redman. The project still is in the writing stage, but Herron said they're feeling good about the progress. So Roy Lee actually described the movie as landing between the Lego Movie and Barbie. Both of those projects had people doubting how they'd work, but they turned out to be creative and successful because of how they embraced imagination. And I think that is for sure the direction The Sims seems to be going for as well. I don't think it's gonna be a movie that we can predict until we see it, and I hope that is the case. Now, I know a lot of Simmers probably don't care about this movie at all, especially when the state of the game itself is really rocky. And honestly, I agree that fixing the game should absolutely be the #1 priority, but from a marketing perspective, I think a film like this definitely does make sense. It has the potential to draw in a new audience and expand the franchise beyond the current player base. Now, for the movie to land though, it's going to need a mix of everything. It has to be funny, it has to be tongue-in-cheek, it also has to have a lot of heart, definitely a strong storyline and an impactful message, much like what Barbie pulled off so well. Now, if The Sims movie can balance those elements, I definitely think it'll end up surprising folks in a very good way. So a lot covered here today. The Sims Direct clarification on the laundry list, Anadius's shift in the DLC release order and what that might mean, and the full breakdown of the Forever Friends event with the newest details about The Sims movie. I'm curious on what you guys think. How do you feel about the fixes being promised for November? Do you think the DLC pipeline makes sense with the mix of kits and expansions? And what's your reaction to the Forever Friends event? Are you excited or are you just kind of meh? And finally, are you on board with a Sims movie inspired by Barbie and Lego? Or do you think the game itself should always come first? Obviously, I don't think the Sims movie has anything to do with the development team behind the game, but it just looks and feels weird when you find out that they're developing a movie for your game that doesn't work right. That's gonna be it from me. Take care, guys. Happy life simming.